and welcome to Give Me a Moment. I'm Barbara Mallory Caraway, and I'm so happy that you've joined us for the broadcast tonight. And we'll have to see that we move on, but I need my technician to make sure everything is going on. It was some glitch there for a second. But we have a great show for you tonight. We're going to continue to educate, to inform, and to encourage. Now listen, before we get into the broadcast, bad weather is coming again. Bad weather is coming again on Wednesday and Thursday. Please be prepared. You know, we've had these storms coming frequently, and so you must be prepared. Make sure you have plenty of water. I know we have fountains and sinks and you have tap water, but most of us have bottled water, so make sure you have enough water. And additionally, you know, this whole controversy continues about whether Texas is ready and whether or not our grid can sustain the enormous demand during times like this. So, you know, electricity, whether it is your unit, whether you have a plug-in unit, air conditioner unit, whatever it is, be prepared. And if you have a fireplace, make sure you get some wood because you may have to use it. Bad weather is coming on Wednesday and Thursday. Make sure your cars are full of gas. Make sure you have food. In addition to that, make sure you check on our seniors and your neighbors because some of them don't have people to check on them. So be prepared. Today is Monday, and you know how Texas's weather is. It is undependable. So whatever's going on here, you've got to be prepared. We'll see what happens with the schools. They usually don't issue any type of notice until the night before, so we'll see what's going on. But we also want to say happy President's Day. Many of you had a day off. It's a federal holiday, so whether or not you had anything, but in celebration of the presidents of the United States, you at least got a federal holiday today, which meant that the banks were closed as well as all of your federal buildings. So congratulations for this, and we're moving on. We're moving on to the next phase, and so make sure to watch the weather forecast. Now, something that's very, very interesting that's going on, and I have really been trying to learn more about this potential Russian invasion and this whole Russian-Ukrainian and Crimea, this whole conflict that has been going on for decades, actually as far back as 1991 during our first George Herbert Walker Bush presidency, when this whole alliance with the National Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is NATO, and how the breakup of the former Soviet Union. And you know that Vladimir Putin, who is now the president of the Soviet Union, really has been disgruntled since that whole breakup and this whole powerhouse because of the whole power structure that was brought down, due mainly because of a lot of corruption that was going on that time in Russia, and it could not sustain itself. But I have really been interested in what is going on, that potentially, as if the voters say so, as I go to Washington to understand the world conflict. Now, the president has a lot of power and authority as to national affairs, international affairs, and how we will proceed in war. Now, during this whole 9/11, a lot of the powers of Congress acquiesced to the president, who was then George Bush II, because of the time that potentially would take for Congress to pass legislation or to give approval. So they really gave the president at that time broad powers. So some of those are still in place. But the thing about it is, please pay attention to what's going on. You may think that it does not affect you, but look how expensive gas has gotten just within the last week. Depending on where you go, gas could be 20 to 30 cents more a gallon. I was actually shocked within a few days, and I'm having to fill up my tank now because of the traveling I'm going and campaigning twice a week, and it costs, I tell you, $45 to fill my tank, and that really is a burden on families. It really cuts into your food and other needs that you have as a family, as a unit. And so please pay attention. It affects the gas prices. It affects the food prices. You may have seen what was going on the Canadian-U.S. border, where they finally just started arresting these truckers who had blocked the border because of their stance on anti-COVID. So you just really got to pay attention. You may not think that it matters, but it does. I get so disappointed over and over again when I see particularly young people who say that voting, politics, it doesn't matter. Well, that is not true, because whether or not how you pay your taxes, how your roads are built, whether you're a hairdresser, whether you're a barber, whatever, you have to pay for your car to drive your car on the streets. And so when I hear young people say, well, it doesn't matter, and we had one young man I was in the store today said, well, I'm not even from this country. So I asked him where he was from and if he wanted to go, but he didn't answer me. I said, where are you from? He had no accent. Typically, people who are from another country, they have some type of accent. So it was clear that he was and is a United States citizen, but he's disgruntled. Well, we all have the right to be disgruntled, and that is the freedom of America. That is the freedom of America. That is why we are a democracy. You have certain rules in place and laws, because we are a nation of laws. But please, please, please participate, whether it's on a local level, the national level, the county level. We are now in what's called a midterm election. It is midterm because there is no presidential candidate or race on the ballot. But please pay attention to these international and national affairs, because they have a direct impact on your everyday life. And I have been watching this Russian-Ukrainian incident because they really believe that Russia is going to invade Ukraine it's imminent, is what the reports are saying. So if that happens, then we've also already are affected by, quote unquote, the supply chain. So what does that do for international and the fact that whether we like it or not, we're on a global economy. And so everything that we eat, everything that we wear, everything that we drink is not made in America. And even our dependency, there has been this ongoing debate about our dependency on foreign oil, where there are still pipelines that come to this country that provide oil. We're moving more toward electricity, whether it's electric cars, and then they got to have charging stations. As part of the Build Back Better plan, there was money put in there for electric charging stations. So you may have a gas-fueled car today, but not too far in the distant future, this is going to be a changeover, a transition to electric cars. So you might as well get ready for that, get ready for the transition, get ready for the Jetson age, because we are moving swiftly there. I always say that before COVID, we were just kind of trotting into the digital age, into this new era. But now, because of COVID, we're being pushed into it. Now, so please pay attention. The other thing that you need to watch for, within the next few days, the week or so, there's going to be a change with mask mandates in schools. They're going to lift some of the mask mandates in schools. Well, I will tell you that there's a mandate, but that doesn't mean that it's not a choice. And so I will continue to at least wear my mask for health reasons. There are still a potential outbreak, but I think what they're trying to do is go towards this herd immunity. That is my personal belief, because sooner or later, this virus, will be like the flu. Most of us, and if you haven't had your vaccination, some people still haven't, believe it or not, or you haven't had your booster, please do so, because you're not just doing it for your safety, you're doing it for the ones that you love. Some businesses still mandate that you wear a mask, and they can do that. One thing about government mandates and private business mandates, they can mandate what happens within their own business. So I would encourage you to do that. Make sure that you can keep everyone around you safe. But it's really, really strange. A lot of things that are going on. We're almost into the month of March. Can you believe that? It's just time. Just keep on pushing into the future. Time keeps on going, 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 going. And if you're not prepared, then you will be left behind. We have the high cost of living because of inflation, but how we deal with that is people need to earn more money. You need to be able to take care of your families. People are really, really concerned about inflation, the cost of prescription drugs because they're so expensive, until sometimes choices have to be made whether you're going to have food or basics, or particularly our seniors, whether or not you're going to be able to have the medication that you need. Some families have children who have really, really conditions that they have to pay for a high cost of prescription drugs. Even for seniors in Medicare, the issue of whether or not Medicare can negotiate its own prices. So we have to come to a place in this country where people can share in the American dream. We are in a capitalistic society, which means that capitalism is the rule of the day. And because of that, the people on the bottom totem pole, the middle class, even when you had particularly government jobs where you could take care of your family and you could educate your family, you could have more of a comfortable life, but even that's under attack. So make sure that within the realms of how you can make your life better for others, you can do that. But that's also dependent on the type of leadership you have in political roles, and that's very important. You cannot have a person who cares more about how they're going to make their money rather than the people that you have elected to send you in these positions. We have to be very, very careful about that. So there is a lot of going on tonight. We're looking at whether or not we're going to, the impact that this weather is going to have on our food chain. So pay attention to that. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you, just to mention about the Winter Olympics are over. They're over, and they were really talking about whether or not there was a high viewership because of all the controversies over the Russian teenager who was found to be using an illegal, enhancement, and they allowed her to compete. Then she just really fell flat, 15 years old. And the question was, what has happened to the standards? So when we look at not only our life standards, but this whole standard of living globally, what are we doing? What are we doing? So you got prescription drugs. You got crime that continues to escalate. Now, New York, there is a lot of violence and gun violence going on across the board, whether it's here in our community. Every night people are hearing gunshots. You can now own a gun. You do not have to even have a permit because of a law in Texas. People are afraid. They're afraid. So we got to get control of this gun violence. We must have not only that, but violence overall, whether it's violence against women, violence against individuals, road rage. People are just out of control. So we have to deal with this violence. One way that I think that we should, and I would propose that we deal with violence, is that we have to have what I call a six-pack plan, which is a holistic approach to how we deal with the symptoms of violence. And a friend of mine, Reverend Anthony Williams, who happens to be running for U.S. Senate in Illinois, had a resolution that was passed to deal with the systemic causes of violence. And one calls for making sure that we get all of the resources that are available for violence and put them on one umbrella. It won't cost more money. It just means that you're consolidating these programs, and people who are experts and who can deal with them on a state level, then that's how you deal with that. Not piecemealing, not just piecemealing. You must look at education is part of that because education is the way out. It really helps deal with violence. We have to have programs for our young people. We have to. There used to be a time where you could go to your local recreation center, your city recreation center that has programs and enhancements that you can do and make sure that you can, your children have an alternative. The other thing is that we must look at how much we're paying people. So many businesses you go to today, they are asking for help everywhere, and the service is really not as good because they don't have enough people to fill the positions. But the only issue with that is that they're not paying people. They're not paying people enough money that to say, okay, then if you come to work for me, then I'm going to share in the coffers. So we have to look at making sure they have a sustainable job, making sure that our families are stable, and look at how we deal with crime and criminal justice reform. Because law enforcement who has sworn an oath to protect the public cannot be perceived as an enemy of the public. So as part of that six-pack plan, we must make also accountability of law enforcement, which means that you can create a database that regardless of the race, creed, color, that you are protected by them and their record goes into a database. And I will assure you that if people are accountable for their actions, then they're less likely to be involved in nefarious engagements of behavior. Some people, it's just going to happen. But we've got to get criminal justice reform with police accountability, police reform, not defund. And we've got to look at the courts, how the courts are applying the law equally. Now, part of that 1994 crime bill, it really put in motion some systems that are still unfair to people of color. Mandatory sentencing. The judges really are, even though they have a lot of leeway, but we have to look at how we are applying the law equally and the quick expedition of your cases. People go to jail and stay in jail for no reason, only because the courts are backlogged, and particularly now because of COVID, there is a backlog. But pay attention to what's going on. Now, there's going to be a Supreme Court nominee that's going to be put forward here pretty quickly. President Biden promised when he ran for president that he would appoint an African American female. So there are some names have been put forward. We're going to continue to look at that because there is the behind the scene negotiation and really campaigns for individuals that could potentially be selected as the next U.S. Supreme Court. But already there is this hatchet job that's going on behind the scenes for potential nominees. So that's what we have to do. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the election. Because I'm on the ballot. Barbara Mallory Caraway. I am by far the most qualified of all the candidates. I have the experience, the dedication, and the commitment. I served in the Texas legislature. I served on the Dallas City Council. I was a precinct chair. And so I understand the process. I don't have to inflate, my credentials. I don't have to have all these endorsements for people who to say it's fine. I'm not negating that at all. But I have a record. I have served you, the people, in many capacities as a precinct chair in the Texas legislature, as a Dallas City Council member, as I'm a small business owner. So for those of you and that's another part of my six-pack plan, is to make sure that small businesses have the capital that they need and that we are not saying, okay, we're going to have the requirements that you include a small business, but then you can't go get the funding, and then they say, well, we can't find a sub. So that's part of that. So I understand that whole process, not only as a city council member and a state legislator, but also as a small business person. So we need to make sure that you have someone who can hit the ground running, and that is Barbara Mallory Caraway. You know me. You know me because I was on Heaven 97 KHBN with Brother Joe Bagby for many, many years in the community. I really had the opportunity to engage with the faith-based community, and that is part of my legacy. And I actually always credit Heaven 97 and the listeners of Heaven 97 for my success, even with the ability to build a type of profile to be able to run for public office. You know me. Sometimes you know the good, bad, and the not so good, but you know me and you know what to expect from Barbara Mallory Caraway. I can't say that for other candidates. In fact, there are some things that are going on regarding another candidate where there's a $2 million infusion into a campaign. Who in Dallas, who in the historical implications, why? Why? Our seat is attempting to be bought. Please do not fall for that. There's this constant barrage of ads on day in and day out. And it does cost money, but it's not good money. All money is not good money. And so look at the candidates. Can attest and stand up to anyone with my credentials. Barbara Mallory Caraway, you know me. You know what I can do for you. So I'm asking for your vote. Now, the election is going on. Can't believe it. Time has passed so quickly, but it is a week from Tuesday. The election is March the 1st. Early voting, today was a holiday, so there wasn't any voting, and unfortunately I did get some calls and people attempted to vote today, but because of the federal holiday, there was no voting today on Monday, and so you can vote until Friday the 25th. The polls are open until 5 o'clock, from 8 until 5, but there may be some extension. I'm going to make sure and check about that, but you can at least vote until Friday. There's no voting this weekend. That was this last weekend. But you can vote on Tuesday, March the 1st. So many people have expressed to me their concern over mail-in ballots, that they did not even request a mail-in ballot because of the controversy. We've talked about this and tried to inform you about the controversy regarding the mail-in ballots, but that's over, because if you didn't request a ballot, you wouldn't be able to, by the 18th, you wouldn't be able to get one anyway. But so many people for decades, they don't even trust early voting. They go the day of. But however you choose to vote, please vote. I'm number 5 on the U.S. House of Representatives, Barbara Mallory Caraway, for Congress. I'm asking you for your vote. I'm asking for you to allow me to continue to use what you have given me the opportunity to do, and is that get the experience, the dedication, and commitment to serve you in Washington. I will hit the ground running. Vote for someone you know, and vote for Barbara Mallory Caraway. Now, I've said that, and I've asked you for that. And one more thing I want to talk to you about as we move forward in terms of how we're going to govern in this country. We are simply at a crossroads. We are at a crossroads where so many people believe that they are not part of this quote-unquote experiment called democracy. And people tend to use a lot of words that we don't understand. And day in and day out, we watch what's going on in the news. We become discouraged. We're just so busy just trying to make it. Just trying to make it for your families. Just trying to keep up with this fast pace. It is a fast pace in this life that we live in because it's a hustle. I used to think that was not a good word to use, but it is a hustle. Every day, day in and day out. I don't care if you are the billionaires where Jeff Bezos, now they're in the competition about whose yacht is going to be the biggest. He's got a 400 or 700 foot yacht, but the average person doesn't have that luxury. And so it is every day, it is a challenge to get out there and make sure that your children are safe, that your homes are provided for with the basics, food and shelter. I was so blessed to grow up in a place where life was really a little simpler. It really was. You didn't have the onslaught where it just at the click, I got the phone, I got the laptop, I got all this that we all do. And so do our kids, our nephews, our grandchildren. They all have that. So we really have to be more engaged about what is happening. So I want you to watch what's going on with this Ukraine situation. We have, the thing going on with police brutality that continues on. We've got to do something about that. But that's more of a mental and a conscious. We have to get back to respect for human life. Some people don't even have respect for human life. And that is a sad thing to say in today's world. So watch out for the weather. Watch out for the weather that's coming. I want you to be safe. Do not be on those roads driving to endanger your life. Now, however decision you choose to make, your workplace, that's not my decision. But please, please be safe. I really want to thank you for allowing me and giving me a moment just to talk to you about the importance of this election that's coming up, asking you for your vote, my six-pack plan along with looking at the economy, education, prescription drugs, crime, because if we continue to be riddled with crime, if we don't participate, then what difference does it really make? What difference does this rate really make? And so something happened. So I just really want to thank you for everything that's been going on here. Let's see what happened. It's gone. It cut off. There we go. You know what happened? I have this I was interrupted by another website, but sorry about that. That's just the age of technology. But I want to thank you for joining me tonight. I had to put on my glasses so I can see how to click that off. But I'm Barbara Mallory Caraway, and I want to thank you for joining me tonight. Remember, you're only as good as who and what you think you are, and the people that you surround yourself with. So thank you, and guess what? Next Tuesday, I'll come to you on Monday night, and I hope you'll give me a moment then, but we will be on the eve of the election. So thank you for joining me, and we will talk to you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.